Your last stop in your ground floor tour should be the map, then point out to what's in this room and the room next to it, and people come back and go to the second floor. And that's why this is very important. Why they have this as a separate wing? Because this area is dedicated to cult of Alexandria, gods of Alexandria, religion of Alexandria, theological fusion of thoughts and beliefs in Alexandria, and how the genius builders of the city managed to start something new. They understand this is a Greek city, so they started with Greek gods, but they understand they are ruling Egypt and they can't completely ignore it. If Alexander the Great, the founder of the city, the builder of this dream, himself was overcrowned in Memphis, that means he showed respect to Egyptian gods. He went to Luxor temple and celebrated the Opet. That means he showed Egyptian culture great respect. Alexander the Great make a shrine inside the temple of Ammon, inside the Opet area. That is a very, very important connection. First of all, we have to ask ourselves, Mr. Hamouda, why Alexander the Great choose the temple of Opet to have the shrine inside it? Question: why in the temple of Opet at Ammon, at Luxor temple, he chose to make the chapel there?
Because he was the son of Ammon.
Aywa.
He was the son of
Aywa. Remember, what is the temple of Opet symbolizes of Luxor temple? The temple of Opet at Luxor temple represent symbolically the divine Ka and religion of the divine Ka throughout the centuries that came from dawn of history until the end of time. أنا عايز أقول إيه؟ أنا عايز أقول إن المصريين عبدوا فكرة اسمها divine Ka of royalty, the divine royal Ka, اللي هي بتلبس الملك ده وتطلع من الملك ده تخش الملك ده وتطلع من الملك ده وتخش الملك ده. معلش شويه انا صعب في الحته دي، بس لازم تفهموا ان دي اخر ابحاث في علم الايجيبتولوجي، ان المصريين طوروا فكره فلسفيه عميقه جدا ان انا ما بعبدش امنحتب ثلاثه في حد ذاته. ده امنحتب ثلاثه ده بيمثل الديفاين كا بتاعت الاسلاف اللي جايين من ما قبل الاسرات وماشيين معايا لغايه اخر الزمان. وصلت. انا الاسكندر الاكبر. I arrive to Luxor. I celebrate the Opet feast. I choose to make my chapel and my name inside Ammon Opet temple because I want to say I am the divine Ka of the pharaohs of today. And that's why the Greeks in Alexandria understood how important to embrace ancient Egyptian religion into their own city. So they built a whole new cult in Alexandria around a hybrid religion. Greek god Zeus, Egyptian god Osiris, Aphrodite, Isis, Horus, Apollo. And they give them names and they merge them together and it becomes a new religion. It's called Alexandria religion. So what is the cult in ancient Alexandria? The cult of Alexandria. Sits on ancient Egypt? Yes. Greek cult? Yes, but they are together. Smart enough to make a temple with Greek elements and Egyptian elements. Greek elements and Egyptian statues celebrating it. And of course, the nicest and the best preserved find from the temple of ancient Alexandria, the sacred bull. Dates back to Hadrian, and it was discovered 1938, and this is arguably one of the best pieces ever discovered in the world. Check it out. تعالوا. Why the statue here? The entrance is here. So he's telling you this is the masterpiece of the museum. If we number the artifacts in order from 1 to 3, this is number 1. This is number 1. This is number 1. All the statues of Zeus, these are the Greek form of the god. This is the animal form of the god. We all know that the ancient Egyptian developed that idea of gods. Gods of ancient Egypt has the power to transcend in time, in shape, in place. They can be in Memphis and Thebes at the same time. They can be both human at the same time. They can be air or a star, sun or moon, because they are gods. And that's why the divine Ka, the Pharaoh, also like the gods. Pharaoh has the power to transcend in Upper Egypt or Lower Egypt, on the Nile or in the sky, united with the sun, united with the moon, human and animal. And that's why pharaohs of ancient Egypt representing the divine Ka of the gods on earth. This is the masterpiece of the museum. Your guidance should technically stop here. Technically. But today we need to see everything. So you finish your education here, and then you make an introduction to this beautiful artwork. I will introduce it to you, and then we're going to walk through it. تعالوا. Of Sobek from Fayum is doing in the Greek-Roman Museum. This come from Fayum. So what? I told you, this is not a museum to the city of Alexandria. This is a museum of the Greek-Roman art of Egypt. Built in Alexandria because it was the capital. And that's why the temple of Demiyat as-Siba from Fayum, the temple of the crocodile god Sobek. The region of Fayum was cultivated in great restoration renovation work under the rule of the Ptolemies. And then the Romans moved a lot of Roman troops to station in Fayum, farming beside being military garrisons. Because most military garrisons in Egypt in the Roman time, they have farming activities while stationed where they are. يعني هتعمل ايه يعني؟ انت عسكري قاعد في وحدة تزرع. عشان كده all Roman troops in Egypt were farmers. And they were exempt from taxes. And they were farming, and they are retaining their products. And they are allowed to take their product to the market and sell it for whatever they can sell it for. This is part of your job. And that's why a lot of Egyptians in the Roman time were accepting Roman service because of the tax cuts and reforms. انخراط الناس في الجندية في العصر الروماني سببه في الأساس الضرائب. كانش فيه ضرائب على الجنود الرومان. I love this temple because we moved the gates. There is an important text from the Roman time, the statues, and the mummified crocodile in the back. So please, when you come here, let your people walk. Let them see the mummified crocodiles and enjoy these gates. It's very, very beautiful. It's a votive temple. People used to celebrate the crocodile Sobek by offering to the gods all kind of offers. In return, season where the crocodiles hatches, during the hatchery season they used to sell mummified crocodiles, baby crocodiles. So people buy mummified crocodiles, offer them to the cemetery, and make offers to the temple. Mummified crocodiles was a standard practice in Egypt in the later days. Please check it out. On your way out, behind the temple of the crocodile god Sobek, this room is an opportunity, if you have time, will and desire, and knowledge, to speak about art, literature, innovation, knowledge, theology of ancient Alexandria. Why? Because Alexandria, right from the start, owned its own cultural spirit. The ancient library, the museums, the muses, theological school, this is all life in ancient Alexandria. So teachings of Homer, teachings of other philosophers, all were familiar to Alexander. So this room is dedicated to the cultural life of ancient Alexandria. Math, Euclides. Eratosthenes, geography and mapping and history. Plato, Socrates, philosophy. We have a very interesting thing here, original papyrus from the teachings of Homer and some of the original plays in the ancient Alexandria theater. So they have some kind of a theater where they play the Odyssey and the Iliad in a theatrical fashion. فعندنا بدايات المسرح الملهاة والمأساة في العصر اليوناني مبنية أساسا على شعر وقصص الإلياذة والأوديسي. فعندنا هنا هو هتلاقوا بردي وهتلاقوا قصص وحكايات من المسرح وهتلاقوا شخصيات عن المسرح في الاسكندريه في العصر اليوناني الروماني. فالحته دي بشكل عام مهداه للفنون والادب والمسرح والشعر والفلسفه في الاسكندريه في العصر اليوناني الروماني. تمام كده؟ Yeah. This is a room dedicated to afterlife. And this is quite interesting because what happened in Egypt in the 2nd and the 3rd century AD is quite amazing. Ancient Egypt practice continues through the 2nd century AD, along with Greek and Roman practices. But this is the time when Christianity starts to grow. So Christianity in Alexandria dates back to the 1st century, as we all know. 65 AD, St. Mark, and then the spread of Christianity under Roman persecutions. We have 10 recorded Roman waves of persecutions. From the persecution of Nero, the first Roman emperor persecuted the Christians at 37-38 AD, all the way to the great persecutions of Diocletian. So from Nero to Diocletian, 10 waves. Almost every Roman emperor we know more or less persecuted the Christians, not only in Egypt. Christianity in general in the Roman world suffered from Roman persecutions. Why the Romans persecuted Christianity as a new faith? It was against the power and the domination of the emperor. And that's why it is the fear of losing control, fear of losing power. And that's why they tried to suppress it. 250 AD, it is the beginning of the spread of Christianity, and then the beginning of the final wave of persecution under the Roman Emperor Decius or Decius. Decius or Decius, 250 to 60. His name was mentioned in Ezna temple, by the way, and this is the last Roman emperor was mentioned by name in Egyptian temples. Decius or Decius. Decius, 250, 251, 252. His name was mentioned by name in Ezna, and that's the last emperor mentioned on the wall of Egyptian temple. In his days, he started a great persecution against Christians all over Egypt. Around that time, it is the beginning of what we call it, the beginning of monastic movement in Egypt. St. Paul, St. Anthony, in the Red Sea, it is actually a monastic movement to run away from Roman persecution in the days of Decius and later Diocletian. Am al-Shuhada, year of the victims. This is more or less 284 all the way to 300. The persecution was not 1 year. And Am al-Shuhada is not 1 year, it's a period. The period of persecution, it was actually from 280 all the way to 300. The later days of Diocletian, up until the early days of Constantine the Great, it was a period of great persecution. As a result, we have a lot of records about that in the Egyptian church. Around that time, ancient Egypt still practiced. People still go to Egyptian temples, and Romans still go to Roman temples, and Greeks still go to Greek temples. And Alexandria, theologically, is still functioning. Embalming to mummies, still practiced all over along the Nile. These particular mummies from Roman time, they are not from Alexandria, but they are from the Roman times. And of course, you can see the embalming style change, and the wrapping changed, and the size of the linen changed. And they started to do these little boxes, and they put these little gold dots in there. Faces no longer masks or cartonnage. Faces become wax hand paintings on wood, which we call it Roman faces or portraits or Fayum. Because Flinders Petrie, around the pyramid of Hawara, he found large number of these mummies with the Roman faces. Those faces were yanked out of the mummies and made its way to museums around the world. Very few mummies still have their faces, and this is one of the very few mummies from Roman time with the faces still on the mummies, because sometimes you have the mummies without the faces, sometimes you have the faces without the mummies. Tamam killer? Let's go. Arguably Diocletian, a statue for Diocletian, broken as you can see. But two things we need to know. One, Roman emperor always depicted wearing Roman toga. The dress is called toga. Toga. Roman emperor prefer statues made out of this particular stone with a purple color, and the name of the stone, porphyry. And porphyry is a unique stone you only find in Egypt. Where does porphyry come from? Wadi Hammamat, more or less, from Qena, ancient Kinopolis, Qena. So the Romans find the stone, exclusively cut stones for Roman royal rules. So in the Roman time, that stone was associated with the emperor. Only emperor-related art cut from that stone. In early Christian period, the quarries of porphyry died out, and the stone no longer cut or used. Porphyry returned back in art under the rule of the Mamelukes. In Mameluke mosques in Cairo, Qalawun, Barispai, Bar'u, Sultan Hassan, you see pieces of porphyry. They are from Roman time monuments recycled in the Mameluke period. But the Mamelukes did not quarry porphyry for their mosques. They recycled Roman pieces like this into their mosques because Mamelukes were looking for exotic colors, exotic materials and exotic stones to lavishly decorate their mosques as unique pieces of art. Wasn't? Let's go. This floor should be 5 minutes talking and 20 minutes free time. Because this floor is not designed for guides to explain pieces. This floor is not about art. This floor is mainly dedicated to the Nile and the art related to the Nile, the art associated with water, flora, fauna of the Nile, birds and animals along the Nile. So this is a mosaic celebrating Roman time family with birds and animals around them. So they are some kind of waterfront area, people dancing with birds and children. We have the gods of the Nile. So the floor of a house. We have the Nile gods. We have other images of Nile gods, other gods and goddesses from Roman time. So these are general pieces of art related to water, means everything to do with water. So we have ships, cargo on the Nile, anchor of ships, cargo of the Nile, gods related to the Nile like Isis and other gods. The masterpiece on the second floor is this piece. This is a marvelous statue of goddess Aphrodite from the area of Mahmara. Mahmara is Sidi Bishru al-Hitadi. There is an archaeological site in East Alexandria called Mahmara, where we found large number of monuments. One of them is this marvelous piece. So it is the statue of Aphrodite, and it is from Roman time. Of course, the whole second floor dedicated to coins, statues, ships, anchors, statues, unknown figures from Roman times, philosophers, young people, traders, gods and goddesses, animals. So it's a general eclectic collections. But mainly the first part is the Nile and related gods to the Nile, and shipping and trade on the Nile, and gods related to the Nile and the water, generally speaking. But what I personally do, I give brief and I give free time, and people actually exit from here going downstairs. فهمتوا يا جماعة؟